I don't think it ever gets easier, though. I think it just
No.
more
I was about to
complex.
say, like, is writing easy? Like, that's actually one of the questions.
No, you always just want to throw up. You always just want to throw up, man. Like, that's for me. Like, I'm always just feeling sick. Like, I remember Zunaid, like, told me, like, when we were back in Africa, he said, if you don't feel like calling an ambulance, like, then you're not writing, you know? And that's how I feel all the time when I'm writing.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Department Spotlight, the show where we speak to our friends and colleagues about their experiences in the South African film industry, highlighting different departments. So today we are talking about writing, more specifically, screenwriting.
So we're joined by three amazing peers of ours, all amazing screenwriters in the South African industry in various forms and capacities, and they've all got amazing insights for you. So sit back and enjoy.
Hello, I'm Nadia. I am a creative researcher for commercials and music videos.
Hi, I'm Christian Grobler, and I'm a writer and director, sometimes producer and sometimes editor in the South African film industry.
Hi, my name is Kalen Rue. I'm a writer, director, and the co-founder of A Pictures.
Amazing. Okay, well, welcome guys to this second pandemic edition of Department Spotlight. Today we're using Zoom for the first time. Last time we used Skype, but everybody had to send in their own footage. This time we're trying to record through Skype, but we still have the backup footage from each person. So let's jump into it. Today we're talking about writing. If you didn't
guess.
Yeah.
The title of the video.
Yeah, from everybody in this video.
Yeah, if you somehow missed all the titles everywhere. Okay, Mark, you can start with the questions.
Cool. Let's jump into pre-planning. What are you guys' different approaches to outlining? Do you do beat sheets, character breakdowns? Basically, what do you do before you start putting words on a page?
The easy stuff first. For me, once I have the concept and I know that, when I pitch it and people really like it, and I must move into the writing phase, I just go into hardcore research on each character and the locations and everything, on the themes I'm exploring, and then I find that all the research that I do then helps me make beats and little maps of things I can start moving into the story and be like, okay, this is something I want to put into the character. This is the psyche I want to have. Okay, this is how they're affected by this kind of trauma. Then I just do lots and lots of research just to kind of see how that will then be put into the story in a way that would be interesting and unique. And yeah.
Cool. Do you do outlines? Do you do beat sheets?
Well, if I could take my camera to you now and just show you how my walls look like, I just write a whole bunch of crazy ideas all over the place because I find my beats always changing. I find my characters always changing because my main motto is just trying to find the essence of what I'm trying to say. And I find myself, the beats or sometimes the characters can kind of get into the way of the main theme I'm trying to get into. So then I just let it flow and let the research kind of inform then what I want the characters to be and how I then want the beats to form. So yeah, I kind of work in a very messy kitchen kind of way, and then eventually try and put everything into the oven and it comes out okay. So I don't have a particular order with each project. It's always different, depending.
It depends on what I'm writing. If it's a short, well, sub 5 minutes, sometimes I'll just kind of jump into it and see where the story takes me. But for the most part, I do sort of a mix between a scene outlining thing / a beat sheet. Basically just vomiting out all the major points, not just in the main story, but in the scenes themselves. The scene starts with this happening and then she says no, and then ends with this happening, until I can kind of get close enough to the ending, because oftentimes it feels like if I don't know where I'm going, it feels like much more of a grind when I'm writing. So having sort of a roadmap for myself definitely helps me. But yeah, I've used so many outlining methods. I've used Save the Cat and the story circles and stuff, and they're all kind of the same at the end of the day. So for me, I think it's just getting the whole story out on as few pages as possible so that I can have a sort of global view of it as quickly as possible. that's my main priority in sort of the early stage of writing.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it depends on what I'm writing. I guess it's a different process each time. Most of the time, I would get out like a vomit draft because that's just the way I think. It's like I cannot sit down and plan everything because I'll never end up writing the story. So I have to get it out and then plan it afterwards, sort of like going through the drafts and then refining it.
And Yaku, how would you say we approach our writing?
I guess, I mean, we're supposed to be interviewing them, but I think, well, recently we actually started writing a feature script, just, like a spec script of a film. And we saw that outlining thing on No Film School. What is it called? The story map or something. And it has like, I think 10 beats. Because we expanding on a short film that we made already. So it's like we sort of know what happens in the short, but now, we need to what happens in the film. So we had some idea, and then that really helped us to figure out where we're going to end up, because we're not going to end in the same place necessarily as the short. And then within that, something that we've always done is was it Film Hulk? Is it, Mark?
Oh yeah, the Film Crit Hulk. His character trees is what you don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, we've used
so
those a lot.
It's a very practical way we found to develop characters to get you asking the right questions that you should be asking about characters in a very way that's I find that a lot of other resources online, they ask for very insignificant details about characters, whereas this approach really tells you more about how a character would go about solving problems, and you almost define the character by what it's not, and then because if it's what it's not, then it sort of creates, you can start seeing how that character creates conflict and solves problems, and then when it gets to the other small details, say for example what cereal that character eats, if that ever were to come up, then I feel like if you have a more practical sort of problem solving approach to creating how that character solves problems, that when it gets to a scene where it would reveal whatever cereal they have, you'd be oh, it's obviously this one. Or adversely, you play it against type. But I think with all of our approaches to structure in terms of character and scenes and all of that is we tend to focus on how can it be active? How can this character be solving problems? Because I feel if you just refer to structure a lot, everything starts to be a bit too rigid. And I think we adapt to as you guys are saying, we adapt to the different sort of size and scale of things, but it's all the same. It's all the same thing. It's all coming from either the hero's journey, the monomyth, or we go down and we do 5 beats in a scene, just proposition, opposition, escalation, complication, and resolution or revelation. But that's just a very micro version of 3 acts. And I think we find that if you go down, what is it called? That fractal theory, I think we once learned in film school.
That's the sort of the
the minutia of the scene represents the whole, you know what I mean? So I think all of these structures are basically the same. You just got to find your own approach.
Yeah. And I think for me, as well, that whole the 3-act structure thing, I think that's always the bare bones that you start with your 1-page outline, and with all your themes written down, your characters and everything, and then just that 3 little paragraphs, however you want to write it, just to explain to yourself on paper, the bare small, the smallest parts of the events onto that 1 page. Because I find for myself right now, these producers and stuff want, because I'm also currently with a feature kind of thing, and they just want 1 page to describe everything, and then as a writer it's hard to be oh, but what's important, and oh, but you need to know this and you need to know that. And I find that you always try and minimize it to that 1 page, and just to maybe 3 paragraphs to see exactly what you're trying to say and what the audience will find entertaining, what's going to grab them. I think that's always the best way also just help you start and stuff.
True. If you can't explain what your story is very briefly, then you're going to be a bit lost.
To touch on what Nadia said, I think vomiting out the first draft is, for me, like almost just as important, because it's much easier to flesh something out and add these layers and nuance once you actually have something. But I feel like you can very easily get stuck in the cycle of research and prep and never actually getting to the page, and I think it's so important to just get to the scripting phase as soon as you can.
Yeah, like we just finished the first draft of this feature, and now we're finding that like it's actually enjoyable. Like the first draft was just
second draft
the most
so
painful process. But then I think the most important like piece of advice is just exactly what you're saying. Just get it done so that you have something to work off of, and then it's actually a thing.
Yes.
Like in the writer's mind, the first draft is such a scary mountain that you have to climb.
It really is.
It really then it's nothing. You've got your shortcuts now to the top, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think it ever gets easier, though. I think it's just more
I was about
complex.
to say, like, is writing easy? Like, that's actually one of the questions.
No, you always just want to throw up. You always just want to throw up, man. Like, that's for me. Like, I'm always just feeling sick. Like, I remember Zunaid, like, told me, like, when we were back in after, he said, if you don't feel like calling an ambulance, like, then you're not writing, you know? And that's how I feel all the time when I'm writing. So I feel like that's really good advice, honestly. Like, just, if you're not, like, if you feel too, like, confident about it, then maybe there might be something wrong. I don't know. That's just my experience.
But on the other hand, like, which is something I struggle with a lot, is the inner critic hindering your ability to complete anything. It's like, you know, I'm just like, oh no, I, you know, at first I'm like, this is a brilliant idea and this is a great direction I'm going in. And then like a week later, I'm like,
subscribe.
you know, I hate it.
Exactly it. And you just go back looking at your old drafts and you're like, what was I thinking when I wrote that? Like, what music was I listening to or something?
I wanted to ask, have any of you co-written before?
Well,
no.
Not in the industry, no. Like at AFTA when I was doing short forms, like that was like for me the best experience, just to have someone to bounce off with. And me and Christian kind of co-wrote something recently. Did we? That was also really awesome and stuff. But yeah, like not a lot in the industry though.
Nothing produced. Like I've like experimented with the idea, but it has its own sets of challenges. Like I just came off of a TV series where I was part of the writing staff,
which is on CakeNet. By the way,
shout out!
It's like a thing.
But yeah, so with that is like I had a couple of sketches that I wrote independently, and then a lot of the sort of the bulk of the show was written in sort of a writer's room structure. Of we're in a room, we had a head writer that would kind of be the yay or nay. Everyone would throw out ideas and stuff, but most of the times it kind of came out back down to this one person. Giving the okays and stuff, and I'm kind of in the same process now. We're developing a new show, so it's hard because I'm like I feel like within the series it's a little bit different because it's like you kind of get this tick box approach of like these are the chunks that you're writing, whereas it's not like co-writing in the sort of traditional sense where like what I imagine it to be, you know, it's like the Simon Pegg type of approach, and Edgar Wright, where they just like sit in a room and you just have the monitor up and everyone and one person's typing and the other person's talking and
saying
you know
things.
It's like this back and forth. I haven't had that necessarily, except you know with Kaylin where we started working on a project.
That's very interesting for me, because I've actually had the opposite. Like I've written, I think, one short that I made on my own, and then there was the one that I made on the first term of first year of AFTA, which we don't talk about. And then I think after like the third draft or so of my honors form, because I didn't do writing as undergrad, like I think most of you did, all of you did probably, and I felt that I really needed somebody who knew or who had gotten the formal training. So that's where me and Mark started working together. And since then, like almost everything that I've written with Mark. So it's like, and it's basically, But it is basically exactly what Christian was describing. It's like usually Mark is typing and I'm just sort of sitting on the couch and then we like talk about the thing.
So what do we think about today?
I'll dictate, you write.
And then Sally walked in.
You really
But
are
it's
old
cool.
school.
It's like really involved.
But that's something I think I'd really love to do, is especially with someone who writes in a completely different way to me, or delves into different genres than me or to me. I think that would be really interesting, like a really cool experiment to sort of mix the styles and see what happens.
Yeah.
I think what we found is that me and Jakub, we sort of complement each other in different ways. Like he is stronger at different things that I'm weaker at, and vice versa. And then it comes together quite nicely and it also like gets you out of your own head in a way, which is also sometimes a good place to be. But then other times you just want to like throw out an idea, and then already you've got a second voice saying yay or nay, and then I think what's also really important with us is that we sort of develop this relationship where there's like no ego at all. Like one of us can say something and the other one will be like, no, that's crap. And then the other one's not like, oh, I'm going to defend my bad idea. It's like crap. We have to.
I mean, I'm not going to say that never happens, but I mean, I use it as a joke.
Like,
yeah,
we always know that like we have to get through the 50 bad ideas to get to the one that works.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have someone else there to be like, no, sorry, I don't think that works. But I think what you're hitting on there, and then we'd like develop it like that. So I think if I were to write alone in the future, I think I'd be missing that. Like, I think that critical voice would come back strong. Whereas, I like co-writing's good. I like it. It's dope.
You guys have something really special. Like, I'm just gonna say, like, value it, because I've been trying to find a co-writer, because I think maybe having someone there to be like, well, you're being overcritical of yourself, or your ideas are crap, or whatever, just would help me a lot. And it is very tough when you're writing alone to kind of have to be two people at once, you know what I mean? So I think you guys should really value what you have. It's really rare to find someone.
Sounds like we're in a relationship or something.
It's true. Like
we're just all defending it. Like, so you better just like appreciate what you have.
Like for me right now, I'm going crazy because like I need that. Like I'm desperate for like a co-writer during this process, because you don't know what's nonsense and what's like not. Like I find myself calling like 1,000 different writers in a day to be like, and Jakub knows this as well, because I just call him today about
You call me today.
And I'll be like, it'll be literally like the script of 1,000 writers where I'm just like, is this idea good? Does this sound like I need that back and forth? And then someone can be like, no, that's actually a good idea. Someone can be like, that's a really weird thing you just said. Like I really love that kind of thing.
That sort of leads into one of the questions that I had or Mark had, I think. But like, when are you happy with a draft? When do you like, when you're done and you're like, okay, now I can send it to people to read and get feedback, or now it's ready to be shot?
Never.
They take it from your hands, when they pull it from your nails.
Never let go.
Never let go. There's always another draft.
Always like 5 minutes after you've sent the draft, you're like,
I should have thought of that. Damn.
Well, like,
take back an email.
I watched this one thing with these producers were actually talking about it, and they were saying like for them it never ever changes, like right until like even in ADR when you're changing that one line or something, like it's always changing. Like the final film is the one the audience watch. There is no final draft. Like even when you're shooting and when you're editing, when you're in sound, the film is always changing. So there's never a final draft until the audience watches that one that hits the screen.
And then there's a sequel.
Do you guys set deadlines for yourselves, or do you usually?
I always set a deadline, and I never meet those deadlines. I set like a whole, especially if I'm writing a feature, I'll like plan way in advance, and then I just never end up meeting my deadline. But life happens. Like it's just is what it is. Plus, I work.
Like I feel like writers are the kings of procrastination sometimes, because we're like, no, I'm working in my head. That's where the script's happening right now. It's in my head.
Yeah, Christian, I want to ask because you've done like writing professionally and you've been paid to write. So I want to ask, what's that like when do you still do other jobs in between, or do you like, okay, these 2 months I'm just writing, and then how does that work for you?
No, I still do jobs in between, just because it takes so long sometimes. It's like, it depends, in some cases it's very quick turnaround where you have like a week, maybe 2 to pump out 50 pages. Other times you have a lot longer to sort of workshop these ideas, and when that's the case, it feels a little bit easier, but it's when you have this very tight deadline that feels almost insurmountable, it feels like that's sort of your most productive time. It's similar to like writing an essay for varsity, it's the night before is when you write your best work. Having sort of these very, very tight deadlines really does push you to get it done. I'm part of a little writers group that we all have our deadlines sort of on a not a public, but like a communal spreadsheet that can't be changed. So there's some public shame involved if you miss a deadline.
Cool.
Which is fun.
That sounds awesome, man.
Yeah, I think it's genuine, like, because writing is such a like gross, lonely thing that you need to sort of start to find ways to sort of find external motivation. So I like to, if I'm writing shorts and stuff, try to find a festival maybe that you're like, I'm writing the short for this festival, so that you have this like deadline that cannot be missed, even like pay for the entry fee already. That's when I've done the most writing, is when like one year we were just like, we're doing this festival, then we're doing this festival, then we're doing this festival. But for like hired writing, it's usually the client gives you a deadline, and then the producer will tell you the deadline's a week earlier because they know you're gonna miss it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Similar to what an AD does for a director.
Yeah, everyone just lies to the creative people.
Otherwise, nothing would ever get made.
No, never.
Yeah, that's true.
I think also one thing that we often forget when we're working on personal projects is that we have a lot of writer friends, and I don't think we really use them to the fullest of the advantages they can give us. And it can be something as simple as, hey, please remind me to send you a script in a week's time. There's a lot you can get done with just a little bit of social pressure.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Like we, for this feature that we wrote, we were like, okay, lockdown is 21 days. In 21 days, the first draft needs to be done. And it worked. Like we finished. I mean, there were days that we didn't write, but we were like, okay, we wrote like 10 pages today, so we need to write a minimum 5, so we can take a couple of days off, blah, blah, blah. And
I mean, we did have the sort of 20 or so pages of the short already there. So we weren't exactly starting off with like the most terrifying.
You're a liar, Jakub. You're a liar.
No. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is that having a deadline is nice for me.
Deadlines are good for writers. They really are.
And then we read the draft and we were like, what is going on?
But it was done. That was the important part.
True.
You had a skeleton of the concept. You know what I mean?
Do you guys ever write a script and then in your mind everything makes sense, and then when you reread it and you're like, wait, that needs to move, and then when you move that one thing, that other thing doesn't work anymore because that thing doesn't work anymore.
The Jenga tower that falls when you move one brick. I can't.
Does that happen to you guys? And then if it does, what do you do to fix it?
Rebuild the Jenga block, I guess.
You just start from scratch.
Not from scratch, but like for me, like that's been happening this whole week. Right? I took out whole scenes or whole characters, and then it just causes everything else to then change, and you just have to then just work with it and just go through everything. And then sometimes things just change for the better, or you just have to work through it, I guess.
For me, it's I I have to go back to the theme. I think that's like, or the controlling idea. You know what I mean? Like the moment you change anything, no matter what you change, if you go back to, you know, the core of what you're trying to say, what the idea is, and the characters as well, especially your hero, somehow you'll be able to fit things back into place or rework it better. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I always look back at my theme and what my initial idea was, or what the core concept is, my moral argument as well. I think they all sort of link together. And if all else fails, everything comes out of your lead, your hero. You know, like that's something that I learned after film school that I didn't. Maybe I wasn't paying attention or something, but everything comes out of your hero's journey. You know, what he's going through. Even the other characters, it's sort of like a web that's linked to him or her, and that's always like my guiding light.
Yeah,
that's interesting. You mentioned character and theme, and it just made me think of whenever I hear writers talk and everyone asks them where did the idea come from, and then they say, oh, I think I start with a theme, or oh, I start with a character, or oh, I start with like one line of dialogue. Where do you guys start from? Do you start from the theme, the concept? Is it a character? Does it change everything you write, or?
I think for me, like it's always just like that one idea. Like it's not really a theme. It's just like, oh, I think that would be cool if this character was like in this kind of situation, or if this person was doing this. Like for me, it's just that one idea, like it just sounds like sparks my interest. And then when I start writing it and start like looking at different aspects, then I think that just like goes on to it. But yeah, like I don't necessarily look at themes. Like I've done it before, like for after, because I'd be like, okay, I know this would be a theme people connect with and stuff. But for me personally, what I enjoy writing is like an idea that interests me and stuff like that. Not necessarily a theme, just like a person like set in a place or a situation, something like that. So it's not like ever like just one thing, like a theme or character. It's just like an idea that sparks in my head.
Yeah, I'm sort of similar. It's when I'm like getting irritated with an idea, it's like I'm trying to write other stuff and then I just keep coming back to an idea, or it's like something I want to explore, but like it's taking almost all of my focus. It's taking over my life to the point where I'm like, until I vomit this onto a piece of paper, I'm not going to be able to move on with my life.
Yeah.
cool. And I mean, this is kind of a silly question, but I guess people always want to know. I've got an opinion on it, but I want to hear your guys. Is there such a thing as like the best screenwriting software, or do you have a preference? Or
Highland 2, period.
Highland 2?
Oh,
Yes, no one can convince me that Highland 2 is not the best screenwriting program.
The John August one, right?
Yes, it's amazing, it's incredible, it's
If you have a Mac.
perfection. Of course.
Who doesn't
Why
have
wouldn't
a,
you
like,
have a Mac?
of all of us here, who doesn't have a Mac? It's
I
mine.
don't have a Mac. Oh, is it just me?
It's just you.
Yo.
You could very well be the smartest guy in the room. So
But it doesn't sound like I'm a writer if I don't have a Mac.
The smartest guy in the Zoom.
But
yeah.
I've tried out all of them. And sincerely, I think Highland 2 is impeccable. It's not cluttered. I feel like that's a big problem with a lot of the screenwriting apps. You open them up and they look like, you know, an NLE. You know, it looks like you're about to like edit a feature film on them. There's so many buttons and stuff, and it's like unnecessary. You do not need half of these things. Like most of them are edge cases to begin with. It's very clean. It also speeds up the writing process. It uses a format called Fountain, which is kind of like an adjusted version of Markdown, which just means you have to remove your hands less from the keyboard to do things like shove text into like dialogue blocks and stuff. It does a lot of those things for you because it just understands that if you're writing a name in all caps, the next line will probably be dialogue, and if it's in parentheses, it's a parenthetical so it does all these things very intuitively. So it means you get to worry less about formatting and pressing tab to shift your text over, and you get to just focus on the writing aspect. Also, the best feature about it is it has this thing called typewriter mode, and it sounds dumb, but basically all it does is it keeps whatever you're writing dead center. So it moves all the other text up consistently, so your eye doesn't have to track around. You don't have to scroll up and down. Yes, it's perfection.
John August,
awesome.
man, he knows. He knows.
So good. It's so good.
I'm secretly taking so many notes here. Like,
and you guys, what do you use, Kaylin and Nadia?
Well, I just use the same thing I've been using with Final Draft, man. Like, I've tried like maybe 2 others, but like, I don't really have a preference.
I feel like if you paid for Final Draft, you're like, I paid so much for this, I'm going to keep using it.
No, it's because like I've only used like trash ones. I'm not going to say the names because I don't want to, say anything bad. But like, for me, Final Draft, like I just feel so screenwriter. Right? I look at it and it's like, what do you want your title page to be? Like, I don't know. I just feel like it just gives me that kind of like writer's feeling. Like, it's not the best in terms of shortcuts and all of that, and like flow and all that, but I just like the look of it. And I don't know, it's just the thing I've been using. So it's like, if your car is like making a noise, but you still love it, you still use it,
Lately, I've been using Fade In, which, there's a really cool collaborative tool, which, I mean, if I had a co-writer, that would be cool, but I don't, so it doesn't really serve me.
It's the only reason why I sometimes use Writer do it, because if I need to like co-write, or if we need to like share scripts that can be editable, it's like, it's there, it's on the cloud, it does the thing.
Yeah.
It's a cluttered mess that is laggy sometimes and chaotic at best.
Yeah, we've been using this program called Arc Studio Pro, and the only
Why does that
reason
sound familiar?
Because it was No Film School saying, here's free screenwriting software.
Yeah, they made it free. They made it free for lockdown or quarantine, basically. So we've been using that, and it's
The only reason why we started using it is because we were using Writer Solo, and then we just switched over to it to like check it out, because it had all these collaborative sort of features, like you can be writing on the same page.
In real time. It's so cool. Like, I mean, especially now in lockdown, it's been helping us a lot, because Mark can be typing in, so it's basically still the same as me sitting on the couch, but Mark's typing, I see exactly what he's typing as he's typing it. Yeah, literally. But like, as he's typing, the letters and the words and everything just like come on my screen. So it's like, and then I can go and change things that he's written or other way around. And it has this like really cool outlining thing where it like, you write a card and then it like puts everything on a timeline and you can move it around, and there's a scene thing, and if you want to move a scene, you just click on the thing, you drag it, and then the whole scene moves, like everything under that scene heading.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I know Final Draft also
cool.
has the cards thing, which is actually really nice for outlining, and you can also hook them onto a timeline if you want to. I do like the way that Final Draft has the whole timeline set out for you at the top. It does kind of work nicely with my brain.
Yeah, it is. It's a good program, but I think it does suffer from a lot of things that Writer Duet does, in terms of sometimes it is laggy, sometimes it just gets confused with 2 people working on it at the same time, and then like in our outline we've got a beat that we can't remove, and if we delete it, the program crashes.
Oh my god!
It's just a random untitled beat.
That sounds amazing. I'm going to download that straight away.
No, it's very good.
Endorsement, yeah.
It's very good. It's a very good piece
We keep
of software.
it real.
It's a very good piece of software, but I think it just suffers from, I don't know, all programs that have the ability for 2 people to be working on them at the same time to sometimes they get confused.
Okay, so I want to ask, let's go to a sort of a more, I don't know, fun type thing. You know, like people say I have a favorite director or I have a favorite cinematographer. Like, I don't have a favorite writer. Because I mean, usually you don't know the writers' names necessarily. Do you guys have a favorite writer? Or if you don't, what is sort of the best film or screenplay that you've read or something like that? What inspires you as a writer? What other writer or movie inspires you as a writer?
I love I got like 3 favorite writers, I would say. And it's funny because like most of the time, like your favorite writer isn't like the person who made your favorite movie. You just like the way they write and stuff. So for me, Taika Waititi, definitely. And then David S. Goyer as well. Like I just like how he writes, but not necessarily like his movies. Like I love like his older stuff, like Blade and all of that. But like I really like how he writes action and stuff like that. So yeah, because I'm like an action guy, I like enjoy his style of writing, and then just the uniqueness of Taika Waititi's like stories I enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Like I found that I also learn different things from different writers. So like I wouldn't just say that I have one, except at the moment, like Phoebe Waller-Bridge is my god. But she's just amazing and her scripts are incredible. But I think I'm the same. Like I'll read a script and then I'll like pick up something that specific writer does, or.
And Christian also is one of my favorite writers as all those scripts, man.
I'm gonna leave.
Christian, you really like.
Sorry?
Christian fan club.
Yeah.
Like for real,
You're saying it's good.
I have a confession, like for real. Like I remember when we were in like third year and they put on Christian's script and I was reading through it and I was like, okay, I'm changing my entire writing style. Because these things are so beady and so like, no, they're good, man.
Have
I
you
break
read-
a lot of rules.
That's a good question. Like formatting, how important is it? Is when can you break the rules? When can't you? What's the dealio?
Yeah, I was just about to ask, have you guys read Nightcrawler?
Oh, yeah.
I think
That
a long
script
time ago,
does
a very long time ago.
the whole breaking of formatting rules so well, and it's
That's
just
amazing.
like
Wasn't it like really long? Like
Mind-blowing.
There's like no slug lines. Really.
No, there aren't, and
There's sort of
there's like
different scenes,
bold
yeah.
letters every now and then, and like different fonts.
That's
and
amazing,
it's just
though.
crazy, but it's so
when you-
awesome to read.
Yeah, when you
And
watch
it's an
the
awesome
movie, it's
film.
like that's what it feels like. It's weird
Yeah.
how that it translated.
Was the writer and the director the same person? Who was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't think you can do it if it's not, because I think he must have handed that script over a producer or someone that has to break down the script, and they've been like, what must I do with this?
But I love that script so much. Like, well, that movie in general, just like the fact that writer said he never set out to make a character arc or anything. He wanted the characters to arc around this one person. I was like, that's such a cool way of looking at that. I'm like, it's so funny because
Yeah.
I always feel like I have to make my character have a change or something. And he's like, nope, my character was Titanic, and the audience was like all these other smaller icebergs were breaking around him and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting.
But that's also a really great example of how, the director's vision and the formatting. Well, the formatting is used to portray what the vision is for the story, because it's just like when you see that script, you don't even have to read it, and you just know what it's going to look like. You can see it already. It's amazing.
Yeah, oftentimes when I'm struggling to figure out how to format something, I'll just hunt out a script for a movie that I know has a scene that has a similar beat, just so I can see some examples of like, how do you, like, when I wrote my first jump scare, even, like, I was like, oh, how do you write a jump scare? And that's kind of how I've learned how to write scripts. It's just like, this is a nugget of information I need, and now I'm on the hunt. And so I've like got my little folder of, TV treatments and pilot scripts and feature scripts, and I'll just go through those whenever I need something, or whenever I get stuck, because there's a lot in horror, especially. I feel like there's a lot of weird format things that you won't get in conventional stories. Like even like when I wrote like a found footage feature a while ago, and I was just like, how do you do this? How do you do this without referencing the camera every 2 seconds?
So
But that is true. I do that as well.
Me too.
Where you like find that type of scene or find different examples.
Or like a
Sort of
movie in
like-
that same genre.
Yeah, it's sort of like our version of research, like referencing, I guess.
Yeah.
So to answer Mark's question, when do you break the rules? I mean, no one really cares, to be honest. It's like, especially in South Africa, the industry is so small. Like, you can get away with a lot more, I feel, here. Your script is not going on a par with 200 other scripts, and some intern has to read it and then hand over the 10 that they think is good to a producer. Here, you know, I mean, there's only so many scripts that come in. So, I mean, I think we have a little bit more leeway here, but it doesn't mean go and take advantage of it. I mean, not everyone can write Nightcrawler and make it work, you know? Like, I think choose the hills you're willing to die on. Like, I have dug my heels into unfilmables, and I will die for them because I think they're important. But not everyone will see sort of the use in them. Like I was just reading Peaky Blinders as pilot, and they also use quite a few unfilmables, and it's pretty interesting how much an unfilmable line how much information and context that one line can give you and the actor and the director. And some people say it's you directing the actors. Yeah, it like adds so much to the tone of what you're reading.
Yeah, it's so weird though, like you say, like in South Africa, it doesn't really matter because, okay, I'm not going to say anyone's name or what the movie was, but one of the first features like I worked on, not like as a writer or anything, just as like an AD, it was a South African actor that was making a movie. And because his name was so well known, he didn't obviously use any kind of software. He wrote it on Word. And he wrote it like it was like a novel. It was like the most infuriating thing for me because like it didn't read it like a script at all or anything. But he got so much funding and stuff of it just because of his name. And I think like in South Africa, a lot of people don't really care about how it's written and stuff. But I think for us, it's just good discipline to just find your own style.
Yeah, I think also being in, you know, working in commercials for me is that I get to see a lot of completely different side to writing and a completely different sub industry, I guess. And that kind of broke my notion of, because, you know, after film school, you're like, these are the rules and this is how it's supposed to be. And it's like, you know, you put yourself in that box, and working in commercials and seeing how people write to like in a marketable way really broke my notion of, you know, being in that box. And you just see different writers throwing in different styles and, you know, formatting in different ways. It's really cool to see that. So, I mean, I don't think it really matters. I think, you know, whatever style works for you, as long as it's comprehensible and as long as it can be a guide for actually making the movie or the content, then I guess it's cool. I mean, you get people who, especially in like the indie world or with like more frugally made content, you get more like scriptures and not really scripts or screenplays, or, you know, it's sort of like a blueprint, but it's kind of like do what you want with it, you know.
To what degree is a script a blueprint? Because I always hear different writers say that and always have a different relationship to it, and everyone just says, oh, you're writing something that's gonna be shot. It has to be and that's sort of where that previous question came from. But I always find like if the script is never going to be shot, I also just want to write something that's like good to read. You know what I mean? As a thing, like if this thing doesn't have a life as a film, I still want to have a nice thing to read, like, because a lot of times the films don't get made, and then it's like this dead thing, and it's like, oh, I wrote a blueprint for a film that never got made, you know. Whereas I wrote like a script, something like a story, like something to read.
Yeah, it's something that you can still appreciate even if it didn't get made.
I think it kind of depends on the writer, because I feel like if you wanted to become a movie, then the way you write it will feel like that. Because I was watching this thing of these writers actually talking, where they wrote a film and they're like, they don't care if the director ruins it or not because they just love the script. But I feel like it's different when you're going to direct it yourself. Then you kind of write it more with a kind of blueprint kind of thing. So I think it depends what your intentions are and like what your relationship is to that story, I guess.
And I'm convinced if you can kill a good script, like, I mean, kill in a good way, if you can kill it in terms of the writing, you know, that's why films like Nightcrawler got made. It's not because, ooh, the script stood out because it's got weird formatting. It stood out because it was a good story. and it had weird formatting. That's a secondary.
Yeah, I think that's where, I mean, when we say it's a blueprint, it's sort of like, it's just so that, it can be produced or somebody can take it and make something of it. Because, I mean, adaptations are blueprints of an initial blueprint, which was like a novel or whatever, I think the prosaic part of it comes in with like more experience and sort of finding that balance of the technical aspects and the prose and combining them together.
So in this country, in this industry, right? How often do you meet or do you know people who are just writers, who are not also producers or directors? Or is that a thing that in South Africa I want to be a writer one day, I don't want to direct, I just want to sell scripts. How feasible is that in this country, would you say?
It's like, the thing is, they might not be writer directors, but they'll be like writer actors, or they'll be writer blanks. There's always sort of a second thing people do. That's sort of what I've found. Like, I know like maybe 2 people who only write.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to sort of survive on just writing, which is weird because I've been told a few times by producers that it's such a rare skill in our country and that people want writers, but you never get paid jobs. Like it's hard to get paid or consistent paid jobs for writing. So
would you say maybe that has something to do with like the sort of low budget nature of just our industry in general, and like they would rather get somebody who can do more than one thing than just buy a script?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Right? Like I think our industry is, you have to be like someone that can do multiple things. So like, just as like, well, because I don't know someone that's just a writer. So for me, I feel like it's in those periods when you can't just get money off writing, you have to have those other skills that you can work at in the industry. So it's not really because you like those things, but it's out of more necessity from what I feel.
Yeah, like full disclosure, the people I know as writers, they're working for like soapies. Like they're like writing daily stuff, it's like constant content. Like I think it's also like our feature budgets just aren't big enough to pay the way like you can't live a year off of a feature. That's not the kind of paychecks we can expect here.
Yeah, I mean, I think for everybody who's not in South Africa, like it's easy to just say, yeah, we've got 5 million rand budgets on average, but then when you convert that to dollars, it's like what, 250,000 dollars.
Low budget American movie.
Yeah, and then people in America like, yeah, I'm gonna make this low budget short film.
Like you put it off,
it's gonna have $500,000, and I'm like,
you'd get headlines in America for filming on a South African budget,
For real. We are so well trained. If we went that side, like we'd kill it. Like we'd kill it so well.
Yo, we'd save so much money.
We'd be a producer's dream that side. Honestly.
Everyone would get paid so much.
God,
wrote the single location feature.
Yeah, honestly, like the money this side, like the money for a feature here is the catering in America, honestly.
Yeah, but it's because they have agents, they have guilds, they have managers. We just don't have much of that. Yeah, they have money. We just don't have much of this here. We have the Writers Guild, which will send you, the weekly digest of new writing opportunities, but you're not getting. It's different. Like in the US, you need to like earn your way into the guilds. You get little tickets into, like, you need to have your IMDb credits, you need to be accepted, and here you pay your way in. If that's
and then they're like, you're prestigious now. You're prestigious.
Oh God, you pay 800 rand to put like WGSA next to your name in the credit.
Do you do that? Do you use the Writers Guild as a credit?
Like I subscribed to it 1 year just to see what it's all about, and it was it's so pointless here because it's so expensive to make a movie made, so the chances of someone stealing your idea and making it is very unlikely. And so copywriting things, it's such a moot idea. And then the second thing is they do give you these job opportunities, but it's so like I feel like it's weird ones. It's always a little bit sketchy. It's always some lady in KwaZulu-Natal that owns an apple orchard that's like, I want to fund a film, you know?
Wow.
But on that copyright thing, I feel like sometimes though there is that little theft every now and then, because I was part of a project where we were writing also like a series kind of thing, and then when we pitched it to this committee, it kind of got stolen and got sent out, and then they didn't really do anything besides saying like we'll mediate and stuff like that. But it's so like even if you do copyright it, it's still like sometimes a scam with some of these guys and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, and like most channels here also just don't do open submissions. You need to have access
Know a
to
person
people to submit. You need to sit down in a meeting. So the chance of you sending something to some producer or some TV exec and then it getting made is just so slim. There's such an overabundance of content that's already actually, you know, won't have a lawsuit attached, that like why take the risk on some newcomer? I think people are so scared of this idea that they like end up not sending their script to their friends or colleagues to get feedback, and then there's just these draw scripts that die.
It's really sad. Like I feel like for a writer, it like if you don't know someone or something, because like you need to have that. Oh, I heard of this pitch that SABC needs this or this, and then like, but how did you hear of this? Oh no, I know someone this, and I think it's really hard for like a good script to get out there. Because I once had someone tell me, and it doesn't matter how good your script is, like someone high in the industry, and they said it's about who you know, not how good your content. And I was like, wow, that's something heavy to actually say.
It's actually very true, though.
Yeah.
In most departments, actually, not just writing. It's kind of a theme in our industry. But I feel like, you know, the one thing that I've learned is that if you put in the work and you sort of keep on keeping on kind of a thing, you sort of develop a relationship and you get to network, and then you do get to that stage where you're like, it is about the people you know, but it's also about the work you put out.
Yeah, the networking thing is very important. Yeah, it's like every chance you get is a chance to make a new friend, and it might not be an opportunity down the road, but making sort of friends and expanding your writer's circle or your creative circle is so valuable. You never know when you need X like quality on a production, and then you can just call up like 10 people, and that's also like just a valuable skill to have this sort of expansive network of people that have like good skills that they can offer.
That just reminded me of something. I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys. I don't know if it's a common thing, but like there are people out there who aren't actually like, who don't know much about film, or who aren't actually filmmakers, but they're just like,
what?
No, but no, I mean like trying to make films, or like, you know, recruit crew members or writers. And they're sort of like, I want to say, venture capitalists who are like, they've kind of got their fingers in like many pies, and filmmaking is one of them. And they're business people, and they can organize the money for you, you know what I mean, to make a film. But it reminds me of an experience I had recently where a guy contacted me to do an adaptation of someone's novel that was still being written, which was really weird. But we were talking about it, and you know, he was like, well, you know, what are your expectations? And I kind of candidly said, oh, well, writing credits, you know, obviously. And he was like, no, you don't get a writing credit for an adaptation.
What?
So, yeah. And I was like, okay, that shows me that you don't really know much about the industry you're trying to pull yourself into. Yeah. But I kind of wonder, like, have you guys ever experienced stuff like that, where it's just like a person who is like, oh, filmmaking could be a cool thing, and then, you know, tries to contact you for work, or have you not experienced the shadiness of some people?
Yeah, all the time.
Even just with like, you know, on the, like the base level with clients, Like, when you're doing commercial work, it's like all the time. They have no concept of what it takes to put out any sort of content. So when you're like, I'm coding you for this thing, and they're like, but why? And you're like, because you want a good quality product at the end of the day.
Yeah. So with networking, like going back to the networking thing, my whole point was that, network, but don't be so hungry for networking that you don't follow your instincts, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if there's a red flag, probably like listen to that little sound in your head being like, no.
And like with a case like Nadia's thing, it's like that's where someone like an agent would be so valuable, because it's this middleman that will see straight through someone's pitch and be like, my client is writing, therefore they're entitled to a writing credit. I know, shock, gasp.
I'm just saying, there's like in every awards, like, category, there's
Best
a category
adapted screenplay.
Screenplay, yeah.
I'm just like, have you never watched an adapted film? Like,
Yeah.
what? Oh, it's so annoying. But yeah.
Christian, you were mentioning an agent. Do you have an agent? And do you know how to get an agent?
I've done some research. I found like one company representing writers in Joburg, and I think they've like potentially reached capacity. I can't speak. Reached capacity.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I'm completely just going solo. Generating my own little contracts when needed, making sure everything gets signed, ensuring compensation. But yeah, no, I don't. I'm unrepresented at the moment. But if any agents happen to be watching.
I think
you should check out his film Larkins. It's on DSTV and Showmax.
I think I discussed with Christian a while back that I actually wanted to start doing that more, like creating more agencies, and I'm also on the beginning stages of trying to open up like a company that can represent some directors and writers. So because I feel like there needs to be more representation for writers, especially, and I think that's just one thing that's needed. Like in the industry, because when I was like interning at like a couple of companies overseas and stuff, like everybody, like all the writers, no matter how small, they would have an agent or something, and like it's just to know that someone has your back in terms of all those legal things and is like actively searching for jobs for you while you're doing like your job, So yeah, like I think because that's what I'm trying to do now. It's just trying to get one of those started, another one of those started in the industry.
Also, working with actors. Like that's why I want an agent. Just because like it's awful, but like from their side, I'm like, it's so nice to have someone fight for your rate. It's you don't have to be like, I am worth this. Please trust me. This is someone going, I'm sorry, my client works for this rate. If you want
and they want Doritos in their room. That's what they need.
It's one of those things where it's really like money is always awkward, especially with writing, which is this weird esoteric artsy bullshit, and having to like defend it is also awkward, and then having to go, well, pay me money for it is like it's just this like sandwich of awkwardness that you have to like eat every time you get hired. So yeah, just having someone that will like fight for that would be very valuable.
Oh, I also just wanted to say that my camera died, so I apologize for that. Maybe let's end off with, if I wanted to start screenwriting, where would I do so? How would I do so? How do I start being a screenwriter in Southern Africa?
It's read a script, write a script. That's kind of the cycle, It's all you really can do.
Cool, we'll see you later. No,
look.
No, but it's true though. Yeah.
To get
I think maybe,
go ahead.
Maybe, sorry, production companies, especially in South Africa, we have, writers' rooms where, people can work within a production company, but then it's kind of like you have to write a specific type of script, which is usually television. I guess that's a great place to learn, especially because you have more experienced writers who will be in the same room as you, or who you can ask questions and they can guide you, So I think that's one place I would look toward if I wanted to write and make money. Another thing is it also depends on what you want to write. If you are the type of person who doesn't want to go into television and you just want to like write features or short films, then maybe doing it independently is like, you know, you're not going to get paid, you're not going to eat, but you can do that. There's also commercial writing, which is in another field, another realm of existence as well.
Yeah. And I think also just for like beginners, like people that just want to like start with their first screenplay ever, like I think just keep reading the grades of your like favorite screenplay, like just keep reading screenplays. I think is a good place to start, just so that, you know, like I know so many people that's written scripts that's never read a screenplay, and then it's just like, but I don't know what's going on here. Like I think before you ever get started with your first one, just read the grades and read the people you admire, and then I think it can give you a good gauge as to where you can start.
Yeah, you can't like write a novel if you've never read a novel before.
Yeah, you'll be surprised, man.
I think if I had to give advice to any sort of young screenwriters out there, is have maybe 3 folders on your computer. One with like scripts you want to read, one with unfinished scripts, and one with finished scripts. And make sure your finished scripts are more than your unfinished scripts, because you never know when someone's going to be like, "Hey, do you have a feature script on hand?" Because that happens all the time, and you never have a feature script when they ask this. And you want to be able to just have scripts that, even if they're like not your best scripts, just have something on hand that you can be like, hey, yeah, sure, here, see attached, you know? You want to have finished work. It's also nice to have some short films done, maybe into some festivals. There's tons, not just locally, internationally. I think if you just go into Film Free Reddit, you can just like look up all the screenwriting comps in the world. Like there's literally hundreds of thousands, and it's a great opportunity to get your name out there, get some awards, get some articles written about you, actually get like some reputation as a screenwriter before you sort of start like throwing around your name as a screenwriter, you know?
So what Christian did, basically.
Just follow Christian's life story. You'll be good.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That's really good advice. Definitely, I mean, I think I picked up just in that last like 10 seconds, I think I picked up a lot. So yeah, guys, I think let's end it there. So thank you so much, Christian, Nadia, and Kaylin for joining us in this special pandemic episode of Department Spotlight, talking about writing. So take care, guys. Stay safe. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Cool. So that comes to the end of our conversation. We'd like to extend thanks to Christian, Nadia, and Kaylin for all of their fantastic insights.
So yes, thank you so much for joining us and listening to the podcast. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like and leave a comment down there saying what you liked, or if you didn't like it, you know, you can tell us that we suck as well. We upload new videos every Tuesday and Friday, as well as a new short film on the first Friday of every month. So subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss any of our content, and check out all our other Department Spotlight videos. Check out the films that we make, and also follow our friends who were just talking to you guys on this podcast. So until next time, stay inside and make your movie. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cool.
Not the same.
I've been recording.
All right. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, are we gonna... Okay, on 3. When I say...
Look at that. Damn.
Told you.
Yo, not this.
Get back.
Cat cameo.
The obligatory cat shot. Oh, I should probably record the Zoom as well.
Well, you know, Yaku.
It's a good idea.
All right.
Let me put some labella on for these viewers in America.
The Americans.
My power just went out.
Cool, guys. Hi, and welcome to Department Spotlight, the show where we talk to our friends and colleagues about their specific departments in the South African film industry. Subscribe. Subscribe.
The power just went out.
Are you serious?
So if we can start, can you guys, let's go in the order of like maybe Nadia, Christian, Kaylin.
That's
Subscribe.
amazing.
Just say your names, and then you know that you're a writer or whatever job you're doing currently.
Oh, but you can't.
No, I can't.
Cool. So you can start, Nadia.
Is she here?
Can she hear us? Did her internet die?
Guys, I love Zoom. Zoom is amazing. It's great. The internet.
What happened?
I think Nadia left us.
Nadia
Said
died.
load shedding, yay.
Oh no, really?
What? As we start recording? What?
Wait, no,
What?
touch my face.
Holy crap.
What?
Okay, everybody rolling?
Yeah.
I should probably clap for my external audio. Hang on.
Do you guys with your sexy ass external audios?
It's a phone.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let me try again.
Yeah. My camera switched, stopped recording. I'm just gonna record.
This is going well.
I'm gonna be back. Don't look at my
Check
stomach.
mine.
My
How many
foot is
riders,
so asleep.
guys? How
It's
many
like-
how many riders does it take to complete
film
a
a
Zoom
podcast.
interview? Does the trick. I don't really think it's like the greatest, but what's
getting
really
crap.
cool is that
Just continue. I'll cut to you.
Where's Yaku? Hello, Yaku. Is that your elbow?
Turns out floor gang is not the best.
Wait, okay, my camera also cut out. I'll be back.
Oh my god, you guys are train wrecks. Please tell me about what Faden does.
Sorry.
I don't know where I found you people, but anyway.
Christian, I think just let your cat in on the podcast, man.
Oh god, she
If he
loves
wants
it
to
when I-
speak, let her have it to say. I think she has a few notes for us.
she wants to join in so badly.
I had to send mine out because she's hell bent on destroying everything.
Jeez.
Everything. She really is. She's like cat from Satan's spawn or something like that. I don't know. She's just crazy.
Okay, so I think we need to start wrapping up. Maybe I've got like 2 questions and maybe Mark has another question. But one of my things is, Christian, you mentioned an
I have
agent.
power.
Oh, yay! Hey, congratulations.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna redo the podcast quick.
My camera died, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
You died on both cameras, not Mark now.
It's
Check
full.
on this caller, yes, Mark.
No, my memory card got full. But anyway,
But that's a really great place to live.
It is a great place to learn, Nadia.
Is Nadia still there?
I don't know.
Nadia's frozen.
I honestly thought it was me that was frozen, so I was just watching everybody to see. what
Yeah,
was going
same. Oh no, Nadia, not
Woo!
again.
I'm back.
Oh, Nadia's back.
on. Nadia!
I don't know
It's
what's
like
happening.
Cloverfield over there.
I swear it is. And I actually watched the Cloverfield Paradox the other day.
Is it good? I want to watch it. I really want to watch it.
I
I
feel
don't know.
like the second one was pretty cool. Like,
How to
I like it.
derail a
The second one.
filmmaker podcast just mention a movie.
Let's all just discuss our favorites right now.
To get back on track, you were saying about writing for TV.
So take care, guys. Stay safe, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.
All right, cool. Don't cut. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet.
Oh, so close.
I was about to tap it.
Everyone.
I was about to tap it.
Sorry, I just
Sorry.
need